Forget herding cats, try feral ponies. Welsh farmer, me, Gareth Wyn Jones, and a whole lot of community spirit bring down the Carneddau ponies from the mountains. So we're just crossing fingers for a really good gathering.
Gold wrap is a premium.
Crow's shiny big kit fix. Kent arable farmer Andy Crow takes us on a tour of LAMMA. Do the maths, a farmer makes the toughest decision of his life.
Where the hell's it going to end, other than a total destruction of livestock farming in Wales?
We have news and farming YouTube. Welcome to Farming Britain.
Farmers don't just feed us, they manage our landscapes too.
I can see the ponies are heading towards us now.
Which means they sometimes do crazy stuff, like this.
Let's go, come on!
We're joining Gareth Wyn Jones, other farming families and volunteers on a fast and furious feral pony roundup. The ancient Carneddau ponies roam wild across 27,000 acres of mountainous terrain in North Wales. The environment has moulded them, and they have moulded the environment.
Everybody that's here for the first time, please go with somebody that's been gathering for many years, so you've got an idea of what you're doing. We don't want people to be standing in the wrong place.
To have any hope of bringing these ponies down for a health check, it's going to require cunning, coordination and a community effort to stay one step ahead of them.
Up here, yeah?
Even when there's a gale force wind, lashing rain and a mountain to climb, Gareth and his family still make a point of marking Remembrance Sunday.
It's important, even when we're up here with the youngsters and things, that we don't forget the people that lost their lives for us to have our freedom. You go with Carol. The whole idea of this is that all the quads are a big fishing net, so we put the fishing net out, and as we're bringing in the ponies closer, the walkers will be intricate and a big part of the gathering, because there's places we can't go with our bikes, with the quads, with the two-wheelers. So by bringing them all into this like funnel and then sending them down underneath these pylons onto Carneddau, once we've got them on the mountain right behind us here, hopefully we're then ready to head down. But it is like a piece of string, you know, you never how many you're going to get, how long it's going to take. It's a difficult operation, but there's some good people here today. A lot of bikes, a lot of walkers, so we're just crossing fingers for a really good gathering.
Okay, for the bikes, important, you would have used horses in the past?
Listen, gathering 27,000 acres, you know, with horses, that's what we used to do years ago. Things have changed, quads are here now, two-wheelers. We've got people that have been coming since they're children. It's big experience for them, but we've got to make sure that we're gathering the ponies in a way that doesn't stress them out, doesn't upset them. But this is the only way today, is to get them off the mountain with these vehicles.
Can't use the Gareth Wyn Jones helicopter for this then?
Maybe the way my YouTube and Facebook channel, I might be doing it by helicopter. It'll be the Australian, New Zealand type, or Canadian, American, you know, they've used them out there. I just love this way of gathering, you know, it's a connection with the people. This is not just a gathering of ponies, it's a gathering of people. And I think, you know, society loses that. Deep down, we're hunter-gatherers. And when you bring people together to do something like this, it means something, it connects them, and it gives them a sense of purpose. A lot of these people will have nothing to do with the ponies and have only come here once or twice, or maybe their first time, you know, but they'll go away with a sense of achievement and have done something that's unique, special, and an ancient tradition that should be protected and kept for future generations. These ponies are amazing. We'll talk more about them later on, but they are special.
The gathering has not been without its critics. However, for the past 15 years, a host of academics have been part of this winter ritual. They recognise the benefits to individuals and to the herd.
I don't like going to the dentist, right?
No.
My dog doesn't like going to the vet.
Yeah.
But I still go to the dentist and I still take my dog
Because
to the
we
vet.
have to.
Because what's the alternative is, well, you just don't do it. What would be the alternative with these guys? Just leave them and they'll carry on overpopulating and the resources get less. And so I think you think about it purely from like a health checking perspective and from trying to avoid overpopulation. This is necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary from a social perspective, from a cultural perspective, from a historic perspective, but it's also necessary from a health perspective as well.
Yeah. We should be proud of what our families and our forefathers have done to protect these ponies, because these are the building blocks of a lot of the horses and the ponies in the UK. Their closest relative is the Icelandic pony. This is what you're looking at, is Welsh living history right in front of you. And it's a living, working landscape, and we have to remember that. So we try to have as little interference and interaction with these ponies as we possibly can.
Once the ponies are manoeuvred down the valley, the sun comes out and the pace slows. This has been done hundreds of times before, and it feels when they get down here, they relax and go along for the ride, just like generations have done before. Gareth brings the last of the ponies through the lanes and tracks up to his farm and into a field to graze.
We are taking a lot up now. We're going to be looking at them, give them a quick health check, and then we're going to be taking a couple of colt foals off, seeing what we've got as filly foals, and literally just sorting and cutting the tails and getting them ready. Yeah, most of them, 90% of these will go back to the mountain. So we've got a guy that's going to pick 9 up, which off to another conservation grazer. We've got them in Lake Fynrwy, we've got the 100 of them in Anglesey, on the sand dunes in Llanwyn. So they've gone everywhere, really, literally, across the country.
They're not big enough to ride, are they?
Oh, we used to break these, I used to ride these. This is one of the best ponies when I was a kid. You couldn't get a better riding pony than this for children. They're absolutely amazing. Good natured, and once you take them out of their social groups now, you know, they are a different creature, and they will take to whoever takes them out. So that person, you know, will be their best friend then forever. They're beautiful creatures.
Next, it's up and into the farmyard. Here they can be checked over and given that all-important haircut. Not sure that's his natural colour.
Yeah, cutting of the tail's really important, so we know that the ponies have been in, and it's a health check. And during the winter, when the snow comes, the ice balls can, you know, cause a problem for the ponies because it'll collect on the long tails. So that's why we're cutting them. And of course, when we're gathering for the next season, we know which ones have been in. So when you see the ones with the really long tails, they haven't been in for a couple of years. Yeah. Up.
Jess loves being part of this gathering and this community, and has great affection for these wild Welsh ponies.
There's a lot of people in the UK who absolutely adore native breeds, but yet there's an awful lot of people who aren't aware that this pony breed even exists. But what I've actually noticed with these guys, and I don't know whether or not it's because they're brought up in kind of like these social dynamics where, you know, where they live with the stallion and the mares and potentially their siblings for an extended period of time. But you tend to end up with these really, really, really well-rounded ponies that have the opportunity to become incredibly well-rounded adults in domestic homes. And I don't know whether or not it's kind of the semi-feral aspect that puts people off, but I think if we can get more interest in the breed and get more people using them as kids riding ponies, then it might increase the profile and therefore protect the breed even more. So I think we can't quite look at it as, you know, they're just going to be useful as conservation, or they're just going to be useful for, you know, for studying things in terms of science. But I think, you know, their usefulness as kids riding ponies really needs to get a little bit more interest as well.
There's those that talk conservation, and there are those that do conservation. This is definitely the latter.
What an absolutely awesome, wet, wild day in Wales that was, gathering ponies. Coming up next is Farming Britain News.
This is Farming Britain News. No farmers, no food, no future. That's the slogan of farming leaders defending agriculture from over-regulation. Rural protests are sweeping across Europe, including 6,000 tractors converging on Berlin and the blockade of Paris. Some farmers call it a fight against climate change activism. For them, food security is a matter of greater national security. Left-wing groups and some media organisations are trying to align the protests with far-right politics. Dutch and Irish farmers have already created their own political parties, and UK protests are underway, including Scottish farmers blockading roads with tractors. A new community of British farmers called No Farmers No Food has gained 40,000 followers on Twitter so far. Link below. A farmers and crofters protest has provoked an angry response from environmentalist Ben Goldsmith. It's the latest in a string of anti-farming statements from former DEFRA non-exec director Goldsmith. He stepped down from DEFRA after voicing support for Extinction Rebellion. He's also said that sheep should be removed from the UK's hills. Supermarkets are on a charm offensive after a sustained campaign charging them with anti-farming practices. As consumers raise doubt that UK food is actually grown in the UK, Aldi has launched a Best of British section on its website with the aim of encouraging consumers to support British businesses. Meanwhile, Riverford Organic is among producers to lamb into supermarkets. Founder Guy Singh Watson forced a debate in Westminster to amend the Grocery Supply Code of Practice to require retailers to buy what they agree to buy, pay what they agree to pay, and pay on time. It received 112,000 signatures. The movement against supermarkets is growing worldwide, with Australian farming groups calling for the breakup of major supermarket groups. Brexit rule changes are causing hardships for both farmers and consumers in the UK. New regulations intended to protect biosecurity by imposing controls on plant and animal products mean the UK is going back in time, according to British importers and European suppliers. Sky News reports that new Brexit border controls will leave British consumers and businesses facing more than £500 million in increased costs and possible delays, as well as shortages of food and fresh flowers imported from the European Union. News outlets blame the NFU, which asked the government for a level playing field, the same checks on goods coming into the UK from the EU as those going out of the UK into the EU. As a result, DEFRA says it requires phytosanitary certificates for a significant proportion of the fruit and veg arriving from the EU, meaning growers across Europe will have to deal with a new raft of paperwork. Is the world falling out of love with veganism? Once the next big thing, with meat-free growers even attracting investment from media companies such as Channel 4, it looks like the public is turning on veganism. Bee-free honey will spell disaster for bees, says one headline. Meanwhile, a report in New Scientist magazine suggests that lab-grown meat could be 25 times worse for the environment than beef. New research from GWI has revealed that the number of people identifying as vegan has dropped by 29% in Europe and 15% in the UK in the last 2 years. Firewood has gone from renewable to unsustainable. Hertfordshire County Council is among councils backing an organisation called Global Action Plan UK, which says that wood burning creates more harmful CO2 emissions than other forms of heating. It wants a crackdown on wood burners. The group says lighting fires in homes has become the largest source of small particle air pollution in the UK. An estimated 1.5 million homes use wood for fuel across the country. Non-farmers bought more than half of the farms sold in 2023. A report in Farming UK quotes the figures from property consultant Strutton Parker. The land agent says that investors and lifestyle buyers continue to see farmland as an attractive and safe long-term investment, marking a slow destruction for the sector. A group of farmers in the Cotswolds is trying to raise £3 million to save a small abattoir. The Save Long Compton Abattoir Steering Group is working to secure funding following the announcement that the facility is due to close at the end of January 2024. It has a consumer base of more than 900 with a turnover of £1 million. If you can help rescue this essential rural service, follow the link below. Fly tipping in England had to be cleaned up 1.08 million times by local councils in 2022 to 2023. New government figures reveal that clearing the largest illegal tips cost £13.2 million, while the number of court fines dropped by 17%, raising just £785,000. The figures released on Wednesday do not put a value on all fly tipping costs and only cover public land. private landowners told the BBC that the scale of countryside fly tipping is forcing them to turn farms into forts. And finally, what a way to go. A South of England funeral director posted these pictures of a coffin made of Swaledale wool. The late gentleman's lifelong passion for promoting the use of British wool extended to his final journey, which took place in his much-loved Land Rover. And you can buy a Swaledale woolen coffin for your own funeral too. Swales, the Swaledale Wool Products Company from the Clyn Peninsula in North Wales, is selling them on its website. Swales claims to be raising the bar on Swaledale wool products. You are now up to date with Farming Britain News.
Thanks, David. Next up, Andy Crow heads off to LAMMA, and there's going to be some fantastic kit there.
Didn't we have a lovely time the day we went to LAMMA?
It just goes with my shawl.
Now, for those of you that have never heard of LAMMA, originally the Lincolnshire Agricultural Machinery Manufacturers Association, is where farmers, growers, landowners and lads with mullets come every year to pore over and even buy big kit.
How much commission do you get?
None.
Big stands for big brands with the odd celeb thrown in. Because of the sheer size of the show at the NEC, you need to be a precision shopper. Kent farmer Andy Crow is in the market for a new Fendt tractor and a telehandler. Like all Corvids, he's attracted to the shiniest tractor in town.
I am interested on a tractor on here, but it's not this one. What's the reason for it being gold?
So we are celebrating 50 years of Fendt in the UK this year, so hence the nice gold wrap and the stickers on this tractor. So this will be doing a little bit of a tour of the UK over the next 6 months, all the shows, press days, and there are some boards at the back which have explained the history then of Fendt in the UK, where it started, where it's going. You know. And some milestone events, because it sort of started off with some small tractors, and now we've of course got a full range of machinery from tractors, combines, forage harvesters, everything. So it really has grown, and it's.
You've even moved into the haymaking here as well now.
That's it. Yes, we've got some products down there behind some other tractors. Mowers, tedders, balers.
Yeah, I'll see that.
Balers as well.
They all made in house.
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah. They're not branded up. They're your own machines.
Own machines, own Fendt machines. Yeah.
So, if you're celebrating 50 years, does that mean that I'll get a discount if I buy a new tractor this year?
Nice try. You'd have to speak to a local salesman about that.
I will be working on it, I can tell you, definitely.
Gold wrap is a premium on top of the price, isn't it?
I don't want the gold. I don't want the gold. So what, you're going to show us around the stand?
Yes,
Talk
let's
us through
have a
some
look.
stuff.
So,
what do we got?
Leaving Andy to negotiate, our favourite Cumbrian farmer, Charlotte Ashley, is also here with a shopping list to deck out her new high-tech dairy and get a feel for a possible new ATV. But it needs to have some creature comforts.
Who is this show for?
Farmers. It is a showcase of machinery, agricultural goods and such like. I've come personally to look for troughs, of all things. Really, really simple. Could have probably gone down the road to get them, but I saw some on the internet and just by chance the guy was here. So it's nice just to be able to put a face to a name instead of, speaking to someone over the phone.
So how many of these have you done? Is this a sort of like a part of the Ashley calendar that you always come to?
To be fair, I was actually going to skip it this year because we are incredibly busy at home. We're putting concrete channels in for slurry, and then the bad weather came on and I figured out there was no concrete going on. And I was like, do you know what, I'll take a chance and I'll go. And just, to be fair, for me, it's meeting my friends as well. Like, I've made a load of friends and they live up and down the country. I don't necessarily get to see them. I maybe speak on the phone. I see them on the internet and think that I've seen them, but actually I'm not really being that social. So I'm happy to get out and, actually speak to people, like real people.
Okay. So farmers are sociable then?
Well, that's maybe pushing it.
Obviously in need of a quad bike as you drag me over to this particular stand.
I am in need of one of those.
One of those?
Yeah, no, it's got a roof and heating and a radio, and it's after my heart. It's on my wish list. I'm going to save up.
Good feedback about the promo that we put out last week?
Incredible. I think from what I've read, people needed it. It's putting real people in front of you instead of the curated version that you maybe necessarily see on television now.
Just like any good show, there needs to be some launches, and Solace had YouTuber Ollie Blogs pulling back the sheets on some of their new-to-market tractors. We find Crowy where we started, at the Fendt stand, and he explains how he copes with the tractor tech.
it was over my head when I started. To tell
So you just learn on the job, or do you have to go on courses?
I've learned it on the job. They've come and gone through it with me. Originally, I'm used to levers and buttons and switches and that, and there's none of that in here. It's like if you want to put your lights on, you just tap on this one, and you can go on. You can put whatever lights you want on. So if you want 2 at the front, the ones at the top, you put your flashing beacon. It's all in there. And it's crazy. It's great though. It really is. I've got a 724, and that's a Gen 6, and that is unbelievable. I was sitting that one most of the time now.
Can you watch EastEnders on it?
No, I expect you could. I haven't got that far in the book to learn how to do that, so I expect you could.
If you're into big kit, LAMMA is for you. And it was free to enter, which is a bonus when you're spending £500,000 on a new set of wheels.
Well done, Andy. Now for a bit of a reality check.
This is what it looks like when things go wrong for a dairy farmer. And it's just what Steve Evans from West Wales is trying to avoid today. But it's high risk.
It's potentially absolutely catastrophic.
Just like every cow in the UK, his 500-strong herd has to be tested for bovine TB. But unlike the majority of British farmers, Steve's getting 2 TB tests done today. The relatively cheap industry standard skin test being done at one end of the shed, and the expensive, more accurate gamma blood test being done at the other. This belt and braces approach could destroy his farm.
With a more sensitive test, there is potential to lose up to 60–70% of the herd. I can't afford to have TB on the farm because we've lost cows, we haven't been allowed to replace them, but at the same point I can't afford to get rid of TB because I could lose my source of income, which is the milking cows. You know, you're looking at cows around here now. You pick out which ones are the reactors, which ones are clear. You can't. It's impossible. You know, you are relying on the skin test and the blood test to identify them. So unfortunately, if she goes down there, jab today, red on Friday, she has a massive bottom lump, a massive reaction, she'll be slaughtered.
Any of Steve's cows testing positive will have to be killed to prevent the spread of TB. And that could mean his dairy business dies too. No cows, no milk to sell. Replace the dead cows and run the risk of introducing TB back into his remaining clean herd. So what happens to the cows that show positive for TB? Most end up in the food chain.
The valuer will come out, value that animal at market value. There's normally a bit of argy-bargy about the price. He wants to pay as little as possible and we want to gain as much as possible. Of course, that's how it works. But then that cow will be picked up, taken to the local abattoir, should be slaughtered, post-mortemed in the slaughterhouse for visible lesions, TB lesions. Tissue samples are taken for culture to see is the TB within, you know, will it grow? But that meat goes into the food chain unless the carcass is absolutely riddled. So, which a lot of people don't realise.
So if you lose 70% of your herd, you're going to get a lot of money in your back pocket, so you'll be laughing.
Oh, I wish it was. It doesn't compensate you for the loss of the calf inside the cow. It doesn't compensate you for the loss of the milk income. You know, if we lost 70% of the cows here, sort of 300 cows, say 8,000 litres a cow is 2.4 million litres at 40 pence a cow. You know, there's £1 million worth of milk sales gone. Compensation? Yeah, I've then got to go out and replace the cow. But then you have the issue then of I need to go out and replace that cow with another cow. I'll go into the market to buy that cow, but which way was that cow tested before it was allowed to come to market? Was it the skin test or whether it was a blood test?
With a positive TB test comes movement restrictions for all of Steve's cows, which means another source of income is lost.
Right, champ. Right, normally, if we were clear of TB, these cows here would be going to market at 40 days of age. Got a lovely British blue calf here, solid bull calf, that would normally be worth 250 to 270 quid. I get £34 a head for that because I haven't the space. I can't take it to a market, so it has to go direct to slaughter, unfortunately. So you've got a drop off in milk sales because we haven't been allowed to replace any of the animals we've lost. You've also got a drop in income by 60, 70 grand on beef calf sales as well. So someone asked me recently, you know, what's it cost you since the breakdown started here last July? And I said, well, from August on, it's basically cost us £30,000 to £35,000 a month. A lot of money. It should never be. Policy.
So far, what we haven't touched on is the elephant in the room, or the badger in the field. A cross in the big barn paid for with help from a Welsh Government grant, Steve explains why the risk doesn't start and stop in here.
Yeah, cows go out, they love it, I hate it. I am very, very nervous around turning animals out to pasture when I should be absolutely full of bloody joy and excitement that, right, it's a grazing season, but we are terrified, absolutely terrified because of what's in the paddock that we've got no control over. You've got all of that woodland there, basically that's all us over there, and yet that over there is swarming with sets.
TB can spread in lots of different ways. By running blood tests, he's now trying to control cow-to-cow transmission. But what happens outside when wildlife like badgers and deer carry it? There are no deer here, and the badger control efforts happening in England are not allowed in Wales.
We're talking about wildlife. That's a badger scratching right there. And we are that far away from the yards, but that's a grazing field. When you are killing one species but not the other vector, the other carrier of the disease, questions have to be asked, especially when we see the results of what's happening in England, where the cull has been very, very successful. Whereas you come down here to West Wales, Pembrokeshire, and it's out of control. You know, as a parish, over the last sort of 12 months, there's been hundreds and hundreds of animals being killed.
For Steve, today allows him to take back a bit of control, but it won't make the next stage in his farming life any easier.
You can't keep on eroding more and more and more and more equity, burning more and more and more cash, and we aren't the only ones having these discussions. I mean, there's friends of mine, there's friends of mum and dad's, you know, they are questioning whether they stay within agriculture. And the public needs to know that, because there is a direct threat to food security, food availability, at a time when it should be government, not just Welsh Government, but nationally, Westminster as well, should be throwing their full weight behind establishing a secure food chain. And at the moment, it's all over the place.
So here we are this morning, another reactor, the dreaded green tag. That's now number 6.
We've had 11 reactors, countless inconclusive reactors which will need retesting. It makes me very, very anxious about the blood results next week. It's soul destroying for us, but then you've got livelihoods of employees in jeopardy as well, and then, you know, the wider community, the machinery dealers, the feed companies, the vets, you know, it's massive. I don't know where this is going to end up, so yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Steve, and he's promised to keep us updated with all the developments. Now, we set up Farming Britain to be able to tell stories just like Steve's. However, commercialising news and commercialising journalism is really difficult. If you would like to help us deliver these type of stories, then drop us a line at hello@farmingbritain.tv. Now back to Gareth Wyn Jones, looking pretty in pink.
Next up is the best selection of farming videos on YouTube. I better be on it.
This is Farming YouTube, which aims to show the best farming videos that YouTube has to offer. First up, here's the popular Harry's Farm, spelling out why the 2023 harvest was such a financial disaster and what is changing to make sure it doesn't happen again. Next, another of the biggest channels in farming, Tom Pemberton, is full of energy in this one, rushing around fixing broken posts, mucking out carving boxes and doing some nifty work with the JCB. Meanwhile, our very own Charlotte Ashley is having trouble with misbehaving sheep, broken cubicles and people impersonating her on TikTok. Ollie Blogs is another of the biggest farming names on YouTube. In this film, he's saying goodbye to one of his big tractors, which is going to start a new life pulling huge cable reels. Near Perth in Scotland, Crawford's Farm is assessing the damage after a windy night with gusts up to 100 miles per hour, and that's just the start of his problems. Here's another of the best-known farming channels on YouTube, The Grassmen. In this video, Donkey and Connor take a walk around the Spring Farm Machinery Show, checking out the latest products. Less well-known but well worth a watch, here's Glyn from Kerry in Ireland, who blogs about sheep farming with his father. In this one, they're installing CCTV cameras after a spate of livestock thefts in the area. Finally this week, say what you like about French farmers, they certainly know how to grab the headlines. Here's a report from the Daily Mail showing them setting fires, dumping manure and blocking roads. Well, that's it for this week. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the eye symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email us the link hello@farmingbritain.tv.
I'm Gareth Wyn Jones, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching the first episode of Farming Britain.